I was told as a child that being a woman, I wouldn't be capable of much and that I would be only able to take directions and instructions from a man. And for the longest time, I believed that story. Today, I am going to help you identify what your story might be and then change that narrative. Hello, my name is Shuvra Deb. I work as a confidence and resilience trainer, a speaker, and an intuitive healer. Today, I'm going to talk about the stories we tell ourselves, our internal narrative, and how the quality of that internal narrative, of that story, can either hold us back, it can pull us down, or it can take us forward leaps and bounds in our confidence journey. As a child, I was told by a key caregiver that I wouldn't amount to much as a woman and that the best thing I could do was to take instructions from a man. Whilst instinctively, even as a kid, I knew that that was wrong, I still absorbed some of the energy around all of that. And it had a profound effect on how I saw myself, how I showed up, and how I operated in the world until probably my 30s. And I'm sure I'm not the only person to whom this kind of thing has happened. Things that are said to us in childhood, sometimes even when they are said with the best of intentions, can stoke insecurities in us that can stay with us and linger right into adulthood. These comments, these value judgments put upon us by others can affect us into the adults that we've become and the adults that we are still becoming if you're a younger viewer. Now, most of us have a running commentary in our heads. A lot of the time, that running commentary is about the functional aspects of our lives, what we're going to do that day, what we're going to eat, what we're going to wear, how we're going to get to where we need to get to. And then some of the rest of that time, the internal commentary inside our heads can be much deeper. It can go to our self-opinion. We can have judgments around who we think we are, what our value is. And a lot of that type of internal talk can sometimes be deeply negative. It's the case that a lot of our internal negative self-talk isn't even really down to us. It's the voice of someone else. It could be from caregivers growing up, it could be from teachers, it could be from societal expectations. For example, you may have been led to believe that your career, your job, your financial status signifies your value and your worth. Or you may have been told by a teacher that you're no good at math or English or science or art. Or you may have been laughed at, ridiculed, ignored for ideas that you had and offered up when you were growing up when you were a child. And now you think that my opinion isn't worth it. People aren't interested in what I have to say. Whilst the negative thoughts that you have may seem like passing thoughts, it can become more than that. We have thousands of thoughts daily. We also sometimes dream at night of what we've been thinking about during the day. So if even half of all of that is negative, then it's more than just passing those thoughts. Those thoughts then become a part of our self-narrative, where a story becomes something we think as factual. Think about it like this, like having background music on. Many of you perhaps work with music in the background, or when you're cleaning the house, you have music on, or you may even have a podcast running in the background. If your negative thoughts are constant and persistent and present even half of the time, then it's a bit like that background music. You're not consciously aware it's there, at least not all of the time, but it's something that has become all pervasive, permeating many, if not all aspects of your life. For example, you may have got into the habit of, say, every time you pass by a mirror and you catch a glimpse of yourself, your thinking may turn critical and negative about yourself. Or alternatively, each time you get given a new project at work or a new piece of work somewhere else, your mind immediately asks yourself the question, how am I going to do this? And you become anxious. These stories can be so powerful that we can start to embody them. We can start to be in alignment with them. We can start to act them out. So for example, if you tell yourself, I'm no good in interviews, then there's a very strong chance that you may come across as being lacking in confidence. It may show up in your posture. It may show up in the way you answer questions. And then it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. So here's the good news. To get around all of that, here's one thing you can do to start changing the narrative. It's a 3-stage action plan, and the first step is to catch the story. Catch the story. Start noticing your reactions to certain events. For example, when you're under pressure or when you have to do something that's outside of your comfort zone. What's the story you tell yourself? Do you tell yourself something in absolutes, such as I always or I never? Then, stage 2, the second step, is to question it. Is what I'm saying actually true? Is it helpful? Is it 100% true 100% of the time? What's another way of looking at this? And then the third step is reframe. Reframe the story. If your old version of the narrative is, I'm no good at public speaking, then the new version can become, I struggle with speaking in public, but I will get better with practice. I may struggle with speaking in public, but I will get better with practice. And you will. Practice something long enough and you will get better at it. So with all of that, you may quite rightly be wondering, well, how do I catch the story in the first place? And boom, you've identified the most difficult aspect of this. The most difficult and challenging aspect of changing your internal narrative is catching the story in the first place. Developing an awareness around your own thoughts can be challenging at the best of times because, as we've already identified, these thoughts are quite often on a loop in the background as background music to our daily lives. And for the longest time, I didn't identify my narrative. So going back to my old narrative story, the old story of being a woman and not being good enough, I especially felt it. I lived it for so long because the kind of legal work that I was doing back when I was doing all of that, it involved working with mostly men, against mostly men, in front of mostly male judges. And it was only over time and with enough practice and with enough opportunities to do the job right and to do it well when my opponents were men and the judges were men and the solicitors and the lay clients were men, that I realized that, well, actually, I can do this, notwithstanding being a woman. But it was only when, in more recent years, when asked by a recent client to draft a course and to deliver that course, that I had to come up with a personal story on topic to do with your own narrative. It was only then that I realized that that was the story that had been holding me back all those years, and suddenly something clicked. So, to make life easier for you, to avoid you having to go through years of pain reliving an old story that isn't even yours and that isn't true, take some time, when you get the opportunity, take some time to write down what your unhelpful negative story is, and then identify where it came from. Was it something said to you in childhood, or maybe even later than that? It could have been something that was said to you recently. And then, and this is going to probably bring up quite a lot of discomfort, it might bring up tears, but that's where the growth lies. It's having that awareness and processing the emotions that come around, that arise up when you've realized what's going on, what the old narrative was, that you start to release it, that you start to let go of it. And so then that's your opportunity to rewrite the narrative. For me, I guess the narrative now is, I'm just as good as a man, or there's no difference between whether I'm a woman or a man. I just do what I do and I do the best I can. It's not even a part of my story anymore. But it's taken me a very long time to get there. I hope this helps. If you're enjoying this content and you'd like some more, then have a look below at the notes and you'll find a link to my free self-confidence guide and also a link to my video-based self-confidence course that you can do at your own pace. Please also take the time to like, share and comment on this material, and it will help to disseminate it to others. Thanks so much for watching. See you next time. Bye for now.